This video is brought to you by John Robson Guitar Tuition. If you enjoy the content, please consider supporting the channel by enrolling on a course, purchasing some guitar lessons or a t-shirt, or you can join my Patreon. Now, on with the show. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. Okay, it's Tuesday and therefore it's Top 5 Tuesday, or more appropriate this week to say Bottom 5 Tuesday, to be honest with you, because as you've seen from the title of this video, I'm talking about 5 albums that I think are vastly overrated. I don't really get a kick out of doing these negative, let's talk about the bad aspect of things type videos, but because I feel a bit sort of self-conscious here, sitting here and having a bit of a bitch and a whine, but whenever I do a video like this, it always gets loads of views, so I blame you. Anyway, let's get cracking with
Slow Hand by Eric Clapton.
Yeah, now, I often say that when Eric is on form, he is untouchable. And, you know, that is, for me, just the Layla album. And I mention that album because that was my introduction, really, to Eric's playing. And, you know, it just blew me away, just all of that kind of extended blues jamming between him and Duane Allman. Fantastic songs, fantastic playing, real, you know, kind of energy and fieriness to that album. And, you know, because I think I was about 12 at the time, 12 or 13, because my parents knew that I really was getting into this Eric Clapton chap in terms of listening to his music, they bought me an Eric Clapton album for Christmas that year. They bought me Slow Hand on cassette. And, you know, I was so excited when I ripped the wrapping paper off on Christmas Day and thought, oh, it's another Eric Clapton album, you know, this is going to be great, this is going to be just the same as, you know, the Layla album. Boy, was I in for a surprise. Where was all of the kind of extended fiery blues jamming, the Key to the Highway, Have You Ever Loved a Woman, all of that sort of stuff, you know, the title track of the Layla album, where was all that sort of stuff? No, what did we get? We got a plodding version of J.J. Cale's Cocaine. We got, you know, a lackluster version of John Martin's May You Never. We got Wonderful Tonight. Dear mate, that is one of those songs that there is a special circle of hell for, you know, and it's there with Imagine by John Lennon and Lady in Red by Chris de Burgh, and, you know, Wonderful Tonight, as I say. You know, I wanted and tried and made every effort to love this album because it was an Eric Clapton album and I just knew what Eric was capable of. And this album just was such a huge, huge disappointment. But the thing is, everybody else seems to love it. You know, tracks from this album regularly make their way onto Eric Clapton best of compilations, you know, whether it was Timepieces or The Cream of Eric Clapton or The Essential or The Greatest Hits or whatever. You know, tracks from this album regularly show up on those kind of collections. And, you know, most Clapton fans will talk about, you know, how this was, you know, kind of an understated classic. And, you know, it's just, for me, it's just like well, there are large parts of his career where even in his own autobiography, he admits he was phoning it in, and no album exemplifies this better than Slow Hand, I think. Massively overrated. Next.
Hell Freezes Over by the Eagles.
Oh, talk about the hype that surrounded this album when we knew it was coming out. The Eagles are getting back together. The Eagles, the big acrimonious split in, when was it, 79 or 1980, round about then, you know, lawsuits, I think, flying back and forth between members of the band, and nobody's talking to each other, and it's, you know, hell will freeze over before this band gets back together. Well, apparently in the mid-90s it did, and we knew it was going to be some kind of MTV Unplugged thing, and referencing Eric Clapton there, you know, I think Clapton's Unplugged album was really rather good, you know. It was completely different from what you would expect from a kind of a Clapton album, and it worked. He was enjoying himself, and I think when he's enjoying himself, it leads to a very, very listenable result. So that's kind of what we were expecting for the Eagles Unplugged album, as it was going to be, or at least partly that. And there was supposedly some new material. And then the album came out, and we listened to it, and all of the critics were overjoyed with it, because it was, a true return to form. The old guys have still got it, and I'm listening, I'm thinking, well, have they? Because, you've got some tired old retreads of, I think Life in the Fast Lane's on there, and a lamentable version of Hotel California from that album. So they're not doing the old classic stuff any favours by, reworking it here. And everything seemed to be, just that little bit, again, plodding. And the new material, like probably one song, Get Over It, that's not bad. It's a fun little kind of boogie rocker kind of thing. But again, it's hardly, momentous. And everything else just seemed to be, kind of schmaltzy, middle of the road, power ballad sort of stuff. The sort of thing that you would expect to hear, kind of at low volume, behind the chatter in some, snooty wine bar somewhere. It just, I don't know, it didn't live up to the hype. I don't even own a copy of the album anymore. A lot of these albums, I'm trying to talk about them and remember them, but unfortunately, they are so forgettable that you'll have to forgive me if my memories of them are a bit hazy. I don't own a copy of it anymore, and, it's just, it doesn't leave a gaping hole in my life. I was so looking forward to this album, being, a great Eagles album, and it just wasn't. But no one else seems to think so. Everybody else seems to, heap praise upon it and, regard it as, a triumphant return. Sorry, can't agree with you. Next.
Rumours by Fleetwood Mac.
Probably the most controversial one on the list, really. I mean, I don't dislike the album. Let's put it that way. It's because it's like tapioca pudding, it's like, it's so bland, there's nothing to dislike about it. And there's a couple of good songs, The Chain is pretty good, Go Your Own Way, that's not bad, but then I'm struggling after that. I mean, Dreams, such a plodding dirge. F chord to G chord to F chord to G chord to F chord to G chord ad nauseum. And, it takes a special kind of, songwriting genius and talent to take a song as simple as that, or a musical structure as simple as that, and turn it into something that holds the listener's interest and keep engaging. Now, I believe Fleetwood Mac were going to do that with this song, but then they realised that they couldn't really be bothered. And that seems to be, for me, it's that sort of, this'll do, that infuses the whole album. There's a common thread running through all of these choices for me. It's where the artist or band in question, it sounds like they're as uninterested in the music as I am when I'm listening to it. And yet, every critic, every list of top 100 classic albums features this body of songs somewhere near the top of the list. I just don't get it. I really don't. If I'm missing something obvious, then please let me know in the comments. But Rumours for me is one of the massively overrated albums, and that's all I can tell you about it. Next.
On Every Street by Dire Straits.
Again, another album that was, so hotly anticipated. Dire Straits were back together. The old firm back in the saddle, as it were. This is the band that brought us, Sultans of Swing. This is the band that brought us Love Over Gold and the Alchemy live album, one of the, if not the best, live rock album ever. And all right, they've done Brothers in Arms, but we can forgive them that. And then they come back with this bloated, meandering, mess of an album on every street. It suffered from that thing that a lot of albums did in the early 90s, to be fair, where, because you could cram 75 minutes worth of music onto this new format called a compact disc, albums felt like they had to be 75 minutes long, and there was loads of stuff included that should frankly have ended up on the cutting room floor. It just seemed I don't think I ever listened to this album in its entirety, ever, from start to finish. And that's the way I like to listen to an album, but it seemed to go on longer than a night shift. It was just relentless and just, and all of Dire Straits have always had that kind of quite laid back feel, but this was laid back to the point of being, horizontal. And I don't know, they're just, where were the memorable Sultans of Swing type songs, or Tunnel of Love, or Romeo and Juliet, or, any of the great memorable songs from Dire Straits' back catalogue? Where were the kind of, the equivalents of those big, anthemic, melodic songs with a big Knopfler guitar solo on them that, just like the outro solo on Tunnel of Love or something like that? Where was that on this album? It was just nowhere. It just seemed to be, it would have been twice as good an album if it was half as long and they'd put more kind of, I don't know, energy into the remaining songs. Again, this kind of thing of, it does sound like it's being phoned in. It's just not one of their best works. But yet again, critically acclaimed, sold, however many million copies, big world tour off the back of it, live album that came out after it. I think it was called On the Night, which I once owned a copy of and never, I think I lost it or gave it away or something like that, and it hasn't left a gaping hole in my life at all. An entirely forgettable album, I think, that everybody else seems to absolutely adore and once again refer to as a triumphant return. But I've got to tell you, in my book, it is massively overrated. Next.
Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf.
Okay, yes. What can I tell you about this album? The title track is an epic. I'll give you that. That title track hits you square between the eyes, and it's a thrill of a ride listening to that. Overblown, pompous, operatic rock at its best, I would say, that title track. And then it all just goes a bit south, really, doesn't it? On a hot summer night, would you give your throat to the wolf in the red rose, whatever it is? What a pile of pretentious cobblers. And Paradise by the Dashboard Light's not bad as a 50s pastiche of a kind of thing, I suppose. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, schmaltzy, sugary, saccharine-coated power ballad. The point is that the rest of the album is a bit forgettable, to be honest. And the praise that gets lauded upon it as though it's a masterpiece of an album. It's one great song with a bunch of filler material, as far as I'm concerned. And, the problem that Meatloaf had from then on in was that most of his albums lacked that one great song that kind of made up for all the rest of the filler material. I don't understand why this album is regarded up there as being like such the classic that it is. It's a great song, great title track. It's should have gone down as one of the best one-hit wonders, of the 70s, but unfortunately it's still kind of regarded as being a masterpiece of an album. I say unfortunately, some people obviously like it, but for me, I just don't see what all the fuss is about. So there you go. Those are the 5 albums that I find, out of a list of quite a few, but those ones I'm going to talk about today, those are the 5 albums that I think are probably the most overrated albums that get lots of praise heaped upon them. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you have a list of similar overrated albums, if you disagree with me, please feel free to do so. Keep it civilised the way. We can have a general bit of discourse. We don't have to kind of start calling each other names. If you enjoy these albums, if I've just spent the last however long it is, 15 minutes slagging off your favourite music collection, then please remember these are just my opinions. Don't take offence. And with that, that's pretty much it for today, folks. If you found the video enjoyable in any small way, then please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so. And why not give me a like while you're at it? Don't forget the live stream, Friday, 5 PM UK time. We drink beer and we sit and put the world to rights and talk about guitars and music and all manner of great stuff. It's a great way to kick off the weekend. I would love to see you there if you can make it. But for now, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching me have a whinge for the last quarter of an hour. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.